Around the year 1280, roughly 400 people arrived in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Within about a century, 9 species of giant bird were gone. Not reduced, gone, all 9. Their population never rose above about 1,500 while it was happening. So the question is not how a few hundred people managed it. The arithmetic will show you that. The question is what a person standing inside that century could possibly have seen. The moa were 9 species of flightless bird in 6 genera found nowhere else on Earth. The largest stood about 3.5 meters with the neck extended and weighed around 230 kilograms. The smallest was roughly the size of a turkey. When people arrived, there were something like 158,000 of them, and one predator capable of taking an adult. Haast's eagle, 10 to 15 kilograms, a wingspan of 2 to 3 meters, the largest eagle that has ever existed, 30 to 40% heavier than any eagle alive today. It killed moa up to 15 times its own weight by dropping onto them from height. That arrangement had held for a very long time. The birds were not in decline. There is no sign of a population under pressure before people arrived. That has been specifically tested and specifically not found. Then people landed and began doing what anyone would do. Moa were large, slow, and had no defense that worked. Their evolutionary history had prepared them for one thing, something coming down out of the sky. And the best answer to that is to stand still and not be seen. Standing still is a poor response to a group of people with a plan. The archaeology does not hand us a hunting manual, but it hands us the residue. Butchery sites at river mouths, enormous earth ovens, bone worked into fish hooks and needles and ornaments, because a bird that size is not only meat, and eggshell. Moa eggshell turns up in the middens alongside the bone. We should be careful with that. Some of it may have been containers rather than meals. But if eggs were taken at any scale, it matters more than it looks. Hunting an adult removes an animal. Taking an egg removes every animal that one would have produced. Only one of those is visible as a meal. In the eastern lowlands of Te Waiponamu, the South Island, the easiest country to work, the birds were gone within 70 to 80 years of the first evidence that anyone was eating them. Total extinction lands within about a decade either side of 1425. Now the arithmetic, because it is genuinely difficult to believe. 400 arrivals, a population that never passed 1,500 while the hunting was going on. About 1 person for every 100 square kilometers. That is not an army. That is a small town, spread across a country larger than the United Kingdom, and you could have walked for a week without meeting anybody. Between them, in a century, they removed 158,000 large animals and 9 entire species. Put one person inside that century, because the number will not do the work on its own. He is not a documented individual. No name survives from this. He is a device, and it is better to say so than to pretend otherwise. Say he is born around 1350, 70 years after the landing. By the time he is old enough to hunt, the birds are already thinner on the ground than they were. He does not know that. There is no record for him to check, and nobody alive who remembers otherwise. He walks further than his father did to find them. His father walked further than his grandfather. Each of them thinks of that walk as the length of a hunt. By the end of his life, the moa are effectively gone from the country he grew up in, and he has watched the entire collapse. He did not see a decline. He saw a normal childhood, then a hard year, then several hard years. Nobody experiences a graph. 3 things made the change impossible to perceive from inside it. The first is the birds. A moa lays very few eggs and takes years to reach full size. Modeling suggests that removing only a few % of adults each year is enough to end the species. A rate that low does not feel like anything. There is no year in which somebody is hunting too hard. The second is how any mind values time. A bird you can take today is worth far more than a bird 20 years from now. That is not greed. It is measurable, it is universal, and it is called discounting. Restraint here would have required valuing a bird 2 decades out at nearly the same as one in front of you. No human being does that. And the third is that no individual act is the cause. The hunt that ends a species is indistinguishable from every hunt that did not. In 1995, a marine biologist named Daniel Pauly noticed the same shape in his own field. Every generation of fisheries scientists, he wrote, took as their baseline the stock size that existed at the start of their own careers. Each measured decline from a starting point that was already depleted. He called it shifting baseline syndrome. The same year, working separately, the psychologists Peter Kahn and Batya Friedman described the mechanism underneath it. Children build their sense of a normal environment out of whatever is in front of them while they are small, and that becomes the reference point for the rest of their lives. Both ideas are harder to evidence than they sound. Demonstrating them properly needs testimony from several generations who each remember a different world, and that data is difficult to assemble. It is a strong idea with a thinner evidence base than its popularity suggests. The moa did not need the theory. They are gone either way. And then there is the eagle. Nobody hunted Haast's eagle to extinction. There is no evidence it was a target. It disappeared at the same time as the moa. It was a specialist. The mass, the talons, the whole strategy of dropping onto something enormous built around one food source. When the moa went, the largest eagle in the history of the planet starved. Nobody decided that either. Now the part that complicates all of that, and it should. It would be easy to end this by claiming nobody noticed. That is not true, and the evidence that it is not true comes from the descendants of the people who were there. Moa are preserved in Maori oral tradition. So is the eagle, under the names Poakai and Hukioi. There are cave drawings of enormous eagle-like birds, and worked Haast's eagle bone in the middens. When researchers went looking through whakatauki, the proverbial sayings, for birds lost in the first centuries after arrival, they found almost none. Except 2, the moa and the poakai. Of everything that went, those are the 2 that stayed in the language. And one of the sayings is this: Kua naro I te ngaro o te moa. We are lost, lost as the moa was lost. Which tells you something exact. The loss was recognized, and it became the measure of everything that does not come back. But recognizing that something is gone is not the same as watching it go. The proverb is what you say afterwards. There is still no year in which anybody could have stood up and said, "This is the year it is happening." Which brings it to the part that is not about New Zealand. You have never seen a baseline. Nobody has. The natural world you think of as normal is the one that happened to exist when you were about 8 years old, and it was already an inheritance from people who took theirs from somebody else. Every generation before you did what the hunter did. Not one of them was careless. Every one of them was measuring from where they came in. The uncomfortable part of this is not that 400 people removed 9 species in a century. It is that they did it while behaving completely reasonably. That the loss only became legible once it was finished, and that the proverb had to be written in the past tense. You are working from the same information they were. If you want more histories where the evidence is shown and the gaps are named, subscribe to The Inner History.